People, everything's fake. It's a taboo. No matter how aeroplane no feel out for Third Mainland Bridge. No how fish no fish swim inside hot Tororo. Now Funny Folks TV and radio we deal. Now there we did so now we would they catch the whole things balance on top of they tear pieces in a very funny and humorous way.
Well, Funny Folks Radio and TV, anytime, this is where you get to catch us. The best Nigerian comedians, MCs, we're all live here on Funny Folks Radio and TV. Keep watching. TSA.
This is D today to the P to the O, representing Funny Folks Radio and TV. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me the dynamic, spontaneous, ever funny Koffi in the house. Wow, it's nice having you around, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been in the game for a very long time. At least I know from Twilight Zone, where you used to have some very funny lyrics. Then I think one of them is Ashakel or something. Thank you very much. All right, you started from Twilight Zone, then you and Theater 15.
Yeah. Actually, I started as a stage actor in Theater 15.
Okay.
Some of the elements you saw in Twilight Zone was what had come from what I was prominent for in Theater 15. Dauda was a character I played in Jambi Toast, which was our annual theater play for Jam Bites. Every semester when the new students came into school, we always staged that play. So year in, year out, we've had different people play that character then until I came on board and played it in a different way. So when Kayode Peters and Biola Loba started Twilight Zone, they had to come to me and be like, Koffi, that character, we need to bring it alive on screen. So that's how I ended up doing that on screen. And then from there, we then moved on. So it was Theater 15 before Twilight Zone.
Okay, and so far you started with acting, and now you do stand-up fully.
It wasn't like I started with acting. I was training as a stage actor when already I had been that funny, naughty guy, and then I was already emceeing gigs before I got to school. But as at the time we're now leaving school, we decided to take it professionally as a stand-up comedian. So everything was building up around the same time, because as at the time we were even doing Twilight Zone, I had already started doing all these funny songs and all that. So but it was in 2003 that I officially went into the studio to say, okay, let me record a song. And then by 2004 I released an album. So everything was, when you're young and you're trying to discover yourself, different elements come together at once. I was a stage actor, I was a dancer, I was a choreographer, I was the music man in the department, in the club. I was the official MC of my faculty and my department.
In fact, you are multi-talented.
So I was just
versatile.
I was just doing everything at the same time.
All right, but you studied chemistry.
Yes, I did.
So how from chemistry to being a comedian, being a science student? Because at least when one has an idea of one being a science student, there's this mentality of no time for anything apart from books and reading.
Not so true. It was because of the necessity to make ends meet that most parents forced children to insist on what they wanted them to study and become. But if you go check out, most people really wanted to do something else. Most of the professionals you know today were forced to becoming those professionals. If you look inside the child, there's something else they really wanted to do. And when somebody says jack of all trades nowadays, I laugh at them. The greatest inventions and inventors of mankind were multiplex people. Einstein was a physicist, a chemist, an ideologist, a biologist. They did different things at the same time. What's this playwright's name? He wrote several plays, and at the same time he was a doctor and all that. So whatever your hands find to do, do. Chemistry was just a discipline I qualified to study in school. It was not me. It didn't determine who I was going to be. So the real me was still there, discovering himself. And if God deposits any talent in you and you waste it, you have yourself to blame. So I didn't let that happen to me. I wanted to be a pharmacist, not even a chemist, but at the end of the day I became an artist. So it's still in the East, so everything worked out well.
All right, so far, how would you say the journey has been? Especially in the world of comedy.
you're interviewing me right now.
Yeah. Okay, that says a lot, I believe. And I believe the awards too also speak for themselves behind there. Yes, sir. All right. Right now we have a lot of young blood in the industry. It's the industry right now, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, right now it's no more just, how would I call it? It's no more, say, maybe a small sector. It's not an industry. Like when you talk of comedy, you talk of it being an industry on its own right now, especially with the influx of young blood. What do you think has been this effect in the industry? Has it improved the industry in any way, or it has just invited just anybody who thinks maybe he can make 2 or 3 laugh and then he brands himself a comedian? What do you have to say about that?
He has done both. He has done both. Yes, the industry has grown. The vocation has become a true discipline. People can now proudly say, I'm a comedian. And somebody looks at them with respect because they see that comedians have a good take home. And then, of course, we're allowed to express ourselves as much as possible. We're not limited. There's no boundary, really. So, and then, but unfortunately, like you say, you see, every successful discipline allows and accommodates quacks. There are quack doctors. There are quack engineers. So, if the discipline is doing well, there will be quacks. So, some people have infiltrated the system. But as it is, what always finds its level. And with time, it will. But fortunately for us, the audience are the ones who are going to help us do the job. When we started complaining at first, the audience, some felt we were just trying to be hating on one another. But eventually, they now found out that, really, comedians are unified. So it means it is true when they are complaining about some. So they started looking out for some people that they say, this guy is no. So they would always know the fakers who come in, who feel, it is making money now. Let me just watch a few CDs of Night of 1,000 Laughs, then wear a suit, print a card, and call myself a comedian. Sooner or later, people will discover you. Being a comedian is not cracking jokes. Being a comedian is being you. Mr. Ibu is Mr. Ibu. Or Sophia will forever be funny. You don't script being a comedian. You can learn to be a master of ceremony, but you can never learn to be a comedian. Baba Suwe is Baba Suwe. Even if you're not feeling him right now, sometime in the future, he comes out again in another way. You know a comedian is a comedian. You don't learn comedy. There's no school for humor. Charlie Chaplin did his. Rowan Atkinson did his. So everybody has their own elements and dimensions to it. That's why there's a basketball, there's a Koffi, there's a Bobby, there's an Omo Baba. And the audiences like them differently. It's like different dishes. So if you come on board based on picking up on other people's elements, sooner or later you will wither. People will tell. But if you see an Akporo, he stands out. When you see an Alibaba, this bros day in lane. When you see an Agodai, When you see Clint is drunk, it is. When you see me on the job, man, this guy. So you can't just bomb rush the system. If you are not called, if it is not your calling, and then sometimes it's something that you don't even know you're doing. It is people that tell you that, but you know well. So you don't even need to join or go and look for anybody to help you. It is your immediate circle that will push you and say, guy, I beg, I get something next week, can't MCM, well. So indeed it is paying. And we can now proudly say, yes, it's an industry on its own. It's the 3rd biggest industry in Nigeria. And then a lot of young people can now confidently say, okay, but it's just painful that some people feel it is after school, that they have gone job hunting. Then I met some guy the other night who used to be the account officer of a colleague who is now saying he's an MC. And he was doing a woeful job that night. Mm-hmm. But it's not my place to try and correct him. Sooner or later, the audience will tell him, Ogbeniwa, go carry your certificate. Go forget this thing. You're not doing a good job of it. People know what they're paying for. They know their money's worth. So with time, it will work out. It will sift through.
So what do you have to say about comedians stealing other comedians' jokes?
Well, I started the fight some time ago. It seemed like I was doing too much, so I let it go. And I don't know where they are right now. I don't know what anybody is doing about it.
But do you think that right now, in this present world, there's still room for ingenuity? That everything hasn't been said already?
Every day I wake up with new thoughts. You should see my memo pad, my phone memo, this thing. An original comedian would always have stuff to say every day. I've woken up today with thoughts for the day. So the original comedians are always having something to say. It is the ones who are not the original comedians that would always just look around for what someone else is saying and they want to say it. So stealing somebody's joke is a disrespect unto yourself. It's like taking Wole Soyinka's book, then going to another publisher and removing Wole Soyinka's book, a name on the cover, and rebinding it with your name. By the time people discover that, you have belittled and you've fallen. So that's what they are doing, and they don't know it. Just take a few, because at the end of the day, everything is going to be documented one way or the other. Somebody in the future is going to do research on these our works. Somebody is going to collate all our footages, and then your kid will run into some of those in the future and discover that father was just a folly. Daddy was you had no value. Yeah, daddy, you had no value. You can't. I can proudly talk about my brand for another few generations to come. My children will proudly beat their chest, say, our father is Koffi. But not so many people's children will be able to do that in future because their fathers didn't prepare a good platform and they didn't stand on a solid rock. So for all of the fun they're having now that they feel it goes, man must work, boy, man, anything goes. Nothing goes, because that's why you see that you're also in the position. If your parents had done some things right, then anything that didn't go, then wouldn't have put you in this situation. That's why we're in a mess. If everybody is doing what they're supposed to do professionally, it will not carry on to the next generation. So I feel all it takes really, if you really, really intend to be that comedian, read a lot. Go into everybody has humor in them. Everybody has music in them. It is left for you to dig into it and discover it. You hear people with the most crooked voice sing and you're like, how is it possible? You see a stammerer raise falsettos and tenors that you don't believe. But this guy is a stammerer. That shows that there's something in there. Lagbaja has the worst voice to sing with, but he discovered his own music. Fela does not sing. Fela chants. If you take out the English he's singing with what Fela is singing, he's singing Akbala from Egba on Afrobeat.